Alright guys, it's finally time to talk about the state of anime games. So I got a lot to say. I got a lot to say about the whole anime game situation, the state of anime games in general in the current year of 2025. And when I say in general, I mean just over the past probably decade, okay, of anime games. The good, the bad, the ugly, right? And right now, we're experiencing the ugly with the latest release of Hunter x Hunter Nen Impact. Like, gotta be one of the saddest situations ever. So I posted this tweet a couple of days ago by the time I'm recording this, and at the time that I posted this, there were only 182 players in this game on Steam. Now, keep in mind, okay, when we're talking about all this, all right, and we're going over the records of the history of player bases and everything for these games, all right, and these are all just specifically anime games. This is all through Steam, and that does not reflect the entire fan base or player base across all consoles. It never has, it never will. Unfortunately, okay, the unfortunate thing is, this is kind of our only way to gauge how many people are playing, unless like an official like statement or official records come out from like PlayStation or Xbox, you know, going over this is how many people are playing, or these are the top playing games right now, right? The most successful games that people are currently playing right now, okay? They've done that before in the past, and Sparking Zero actually did make the list, and a few of them, and I believe Bleach Rebirth of Souls, if I'm not mistaken, also made that list, but I digress. Those are just examples, right? So, yeah, it was pretty crazy because not only was it 182 players in the game at that moment in time, but the peak, I'm talking the all-time peak, the day of launch, okay? That's generally when you're going to see the most amount of players, right? Not all the time, right? It can peak at a different time depending on DLC releases, updates, or for whatever reason, people get back into the game if it's being promoted in, you know, some way. Maybe there's some incentive to play it, right? There have been games that have revived like that. Example, Cyberpunk, right? Didn't Cyberpunk start off horribly? It was like one of the worst like initial launches, and then they've updated it, they changed things, I guess they fixed things, right? And then now it's like, you know, it's got a really healthy player base, okay? At this current moment in time, I believe it's still doing pretty well. But the all-time peak for this game was 277. I have never in my life, okay, at least when it comes to the Steam charts, I have never seen an anime game do this poorly. Maybe even just any game in general. Like, this is on launch. And there are many reasons for why this is the case, okay? One of the number one reasons I've seen is that a lot of people just didn't know that it came out. As crazy as that is, on the early access, okay, that you had like a couple of days, I think it was like 2 or 3 days, I got the game, I tried it out. I think the game is actually fun, okay? I think the actual core gameplay and the fighting and everything is pretty fun. It's just that the netcode, which it has rollback, is some of the worst netcode that I think people have stated they've experienced in a fighting game ever in the history. Like, it's just shit. It's just so bad. None of it makes sense. It's just garbage, right? It's, like I said, you know, people just didn't know. Like, the promotion, I guess, wasn't good enough. The thing is, I have been following this game. They have been putting out trailers. They were promoting it at, like, fighting game tournaments and events and things. Maybe not super heavily or anything. It was just, like, your basic promotion. So I don't think that they did a bad job of it. I just think that after that initial first trailer came out and people saw what the game looked like, it's another reason why the game looks like it belongs on like either PS3 or maybe like early days of PS4. The models are not good. They look very low quality. I mean, they don't look bad. Sorry, I don't want to say it like that. Like, it's not a horrible looking game. Like, oh, I can't play this game because it looks so bad or anything. You know, it's cel shaded and everything. It looks like an anime game, but you can see it's very rough around the edges. It just, you know, it's low budget. The game is a low budget project from Aiding, who's the developer who also did Marvel vs. Capcom and stuff, right? Some of the characters are just completely broken, if not maybe all of them. I saw it was like, I don't know who exactly it was. There was somebody who posted a clip, and one of the characters, I don't remember exactly who it was. I think it was like Uvogin, however you pronounce the dude's name. The big guy with like the long hair and like the beard and shit, where he fights Kurapika. That dude, he did like something. I don't know what it was. He like boosted and he killed all 3 of the opponents in like 1 hit or 2 hits maximum. I don't know what the fuck that was. I don't know if that was real. I just saw a clip on Twitter and it was ridiculous to me, right? But yeah, there were just several factors for why this game was a shit show at launch, right? And that's a thing with anime games. That's been a running trend. Are anime games releasing and they just have horrible launches. Sparking Zero did not have a good launch, okay? It had a lot of players, obviously, and people were enjoying it, but it had so many issues at launch, okay? There were online issues. There were button input issues, okay? There were, like, some weird bugs and things that were, you know, I heard people say it was like, oh, it was overheating my PS5, and all this crazy shit came out. I remember I made, like, 50,000 different videos going over all the issues so that we could get some feedback to Bandai, and they officially, you know, finally fixed a lot of the stuff, right? Bleach Rebirth of Souls launched with tons of issues. Game client couldn't even launch on Steam. There was no ranked mode at launch, right? Like this is a running trend with these recent anime games, is that they're like either unfinished or not polished, or like the thing is, it's like, and like I don't want to make this as an excuse, but like having a demo or like a beta can help at times. But Hunter x Hunter had a demo and people played it and everything, and then at launch everything was like way worse. I don't understand what happened, okay? As far as I know, right? So just examples of these anime games coming out recently that are just not like polished. Like what's going on? I don't know if it's specifically just the Steam client versions or what, but I've heard multiple issues every time a new anime game drops. Like there's always some type of problem, right? So as you saw, Afro Senju, he did say, we're going to need to have a talk about anime games soon. And this, you know, spurred a whole discussion. Like this tweet, all these tweets, you know, a lot of people put their inputs and stuff, and I wanted to go over a couple of them, okay? So shout out to my boy R-Creeps. He says, I personally believe that anime games thrive most when they focus on the single-player content. When they cater to online multiplayer, the cracks begin to show. The Budokais, Tenkaichis, and even the Ultimate Ninja and Storm games had fantastic single-player experiences. And yeah, I absolutely agree with that, but I don't think it's just one. There's not one solution to this. There are a lot of things that need to be done to make an anime game healthy and successful, and this might be a crazy, hard pill to swallow, but I'm just going to be really for real. I just don't think anime, like the majority of gamers out there, I don't think of the majority of gamers fuck with anime games, just in general. Like you're not going to see an anime game do crazy numbers like, for example, Marvel Rivals or Fortnite or what is it? I'm trying to think of like some other Counter-Strike, right? Dota, right? Like, or League of Legends. Like all these games, okay? All those games that are extremely successful, probably some of the most played games out there right now, okay? Expedition 33 or whatever that one was. Like there are just so many of these games out there that, like, when it releases, when it drops, everybody, like I'm talking about anyone who's an actual gamer, will be on top of that shit, right? Anime games, people just don't fuck with it like that, right? And I think that's fine. I think that's okay. Anime video games, it's a specific, like, niche kind of community, right? Like, the only game that, and I don't even want to say that it got up to the numbers of those other games that I mentioned, but Sparking Zero, and I'll go over the numbers here, right? We'll go over the proof, at least for Steam. Sparking Zero is the only game that really kind of broke into the like initial ceiling, like just right there. It kind of got there, right? Of being like some type of mainstream game. And we all know how that ended, right? But single player content, I think, should always be the focus when it comes to any video game, right? Other than, you know, like an online specific game, like, for example, League of Legends or any of that stuff. Like, even though those are the most successful, I think anime games definitely do thrive the most when it has single player content, because when you require people to play online, you know, not everybody has online, or not everybody cares to play online. You know what I'm saying? So at least make a good single player game. And then if you have online for, like, you know, online battles or PvP or whatever, great, right? That's you know, something just extra, right? But the problem is if you make a game that's specific, like when it comes to anime games, when you make an anime game that's specifically catering to online multiplayer, it is true that cracks show, because if the online sucks, right, then what's the point of even playing? You know what I'm saying? Dragon Ball the Breakers, Hunter x Hunter Net Impact. You know what I mean? Like, Hunter x Hunter Net Impact does have single player stuff, but it's kind of ass, right? Like, the story mode sucks balls. It's a slideshow with PNGs, like no cutscenes at all. Like, I'm not even, like, dead ass, nothing, right? Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Clash was very similar in that situation. They had a couple of cutscenes, right? A few of them, but a lot of it was slideshow PNGs, like the original Ultimate Ninja games or the original Clash of Ninja games, like from Naruto, right? So when he's saying like the Budokais, the Tenkaichis, and all these other, you know, Storm games and stuff had good single-player content, it's because, you know, they had some cutscenes and everything. You know, there was dialogue and voice acting and stuff, and you know, there was enough there for you to play. But if we counted how many people actually played those games at launch and saw the decline, I'm gonna be real, I think it would be in a similar situation as all the current anime games. The problem is you never got to see that shit. You know what I mean? You never had a way to gauge how many people were actually playing these games back then, because they weren't on Steam, right? And Steam is currently like the only way you can really see it. The only thing that you could see were maybe the amount of people who bought the game, right? Like the numbers for, oh, this is the amount of copies sold for this game, which, yeah, Budokais, Tenkaichis, and Storm games, you know, for the most part did well. And, you know, the more recent Storm games, like I think like at least, I would say, actually, no, maybe all of them. I can't remember whenever they started getting put on Steam or whatever, but I'll go over Storm 4 because that was, I think, allegedly the biggest one, if I recall correctly. And even at launch for Steam, it really wasn't as many as I thought it would be, right? But yeah, I do agree with what Creeps is saying. I just don't think that this is what will fix or, you know, be a solution, right? Shout out to Vocal Pineapple because he said this, all right? And some things I agree with, some things I don't agree with what he said. He says, we don't need Dragon Ball Dead by Daylight, okay? I agree. That game, nobody asked for that, right? Nobody was like, I didn't see a single person ever beg, can I have a horror survival game that is Dragon Ball? Maybe there were some people out there, but it was probably like 1 or 2 people, right? Never have I seen anybody ask for that, and that's why this game is a failure, right? 100% Dragon Ball The Breakers is a failure. It's not something that people really care about. I don't know why it's getting more updates, right? I guess it's because it's such an easy thing for the most part. It is, right? You can't deny that Dragon Ball The Breakers isn't one of the laziest games just because it's reusing assets from every other game. All right, it just literally, it could have been a mode in Xenoverse 2. It reuses all assets from Xenoverse 2, okay? We don't need My Hero Academia Fortnite. I don't agree with that because I'm not saying that people like asked or didn't ask for it, but we'll go over the charts. It's one of the most successful anime games currently right now. I'm not even joking. I'm dead ass, okay? That is one of the games, which it is in a sense a live service game, and it's very successful right now. We don't need Hunter x Hunter MVC3. Yeah, when it comes to the Hunter x Hunter game, the fighting game's fine, but people are just, I think they're very burnt out on anime fighting games. They want to see something different. And Hunter x Hunter would have been probably better reflected in like an adventure, maybe action RPG type of thing, kind of like Kakarot, for example, and maybe make it open world or whatever, which that's a huge, ambitious project, and I don't know if Hunter x Hunter people would be on board for it, but I don't think there is a dev out there that would take on that project, okay? These arena fighters and 2D fighters are I don't want to say very easy. Obviously, there's work put into them, but I'm saying they're much easier than an open world type of game. You know what I mean? We don't need Dragon Ball League of Legends. Again, nobody really asked for that, but again, I think it's been well received, and I think it could be very popular. So again, can't agree with that. And then we don't need Death Note Among Us. I don't really care about that game like at all anymore. I think when it initially came out, I was like, that's an interesting concept. And a lot of these are cool because they're experimental, like the Dead by Daylight Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball League of Legends, Death Note Among Us, right? But the problem is, it's like Death Note probably would have been better in like a different genre. Like, it's just not an appealing game. It is fun for those of you that like the Among Us game. I despise Among Us. I don't care. I don't like it. It's not a fun game to me. But yeah, there's a lot of people who like it. And having an anime filter on it does actually make people a little bit interested. But he's saying applying an anime filter over existing games that already work doesn't seem to be working too well. I do agree with that overall, okay? Because if you go through the numbers, it's not showing like these crazy, crazy numbers, but some of them are quite successful, right? So let's talk about what C-React said, okay? In response to this, he goes, every anime game that comes out and flops is more and more of a reality check on how historic Xenoverse 2's run really was. Love it or hate it, that's the LeBron James of anime games in terms of longevity. 1 million% agree with that. And Rhyme said the same thing. I don't know who needs to hear this, but Xenoverse 2 might be the best anime game of all time. It had content on content on content, infinite ways to play, CACs, etc. Was it perfect? Hell no. But there's a reason why almost 10 years later, it's still being played and updated. Again, 1 million% agree with that. I will stand on this hill. I will die on this hill. Currently, right now, overall, with the how insane Xenoverse 2's run has been, and it's still getting updates, and for the foreseeable future will continue to get updates. We have at least, at minimum, probably 3 or 4 more DLCs confirmed to be coming for this game. You know what I mean? I still think that, and this is just my opinion, you can disagree with me. I'm not saying this is a fact or anything, but there are people who will agree with me, and there are a lot of people who will disagree. Xenoverse 2 is the best anime game of all time. People will say, oh no, that goes to the Tenkaichi series. No, that goes to the Ultimate Ninja Storm series, right? And those games are phenomenal as well. But have they had a run like Xenoverse has? This is one game, okay? The Tenkaichi games had like, what, 3 or 4 years worth from Tenkaichi 1 to Tenkaichi 3. And then the Storm games, they had what, maybe... Storm games had a long run, I'm not gonna lie, okay? I think 2015, 2016 was when Storm 4 came out, if I recall correctly. And the original ones, I think, were coming out since like, what, maybe like 2008, 2009, 2010. So that has a pretty long run as well. So the Storm series definitely rivals Xenoverse 2, but I'm just talking about that. They had to make multiple games for that. Xenoverse 2 on its own, okay, just on its own, is just cooking, right? Really. Whether or not you like how the game plays or what the game has to offer, it has so much content and so much variety that this type of game might be the solution. It's honestly the best that you can get when it comes to an anime game, right? I'm just saying, I'm just being real, right? You have customization aspects, you have a decent story mode, you have nice cutscenes, right? You have online PvP, multiplayer modes, you know, raid battles, right? Playing with other people on a team to fight a big boss, or just parallel quests where you can go with people, have them on a team and take on raid boss. Like they cooked, right? It's a genius model. It's a genius gameplay model. It's not 100% live service because updates don't come as frequently as a true live service, but it's working. It's working. I'm just saying, like, that's the thing. People are like, oh, we don't need a live service. We don't need a live service or whatever, right? And shout out to Bebo because he goes, I know some of these games are fun for like 30 seconds, but in terms of anime games being successful for long term, what can genuinely be done, okay? Now, for long term, I put out my opinion, right? Live service, gachas, or just putting better quality into them, okay? Better quality into them is obvious. Everybody knows that, right? If you want a game to be successful, cook. Actually cook. Don't release half-ass games. Don't release games that are broken on launch. You know what I mean? Don't release games that have shit online at launch, right? And have to polish the netcode and take months and months, years to fix up the netcode, right? But yeah, live service and gachas, if you want a long-term successful game, that's how you do it, is a live service gachas. And people are gonna hate and say, oh, no. And that's fine. If you think that a live service game sucks and is bad, great. But don't ask for a game to be long-term successful and expect it not to be live service. You know what I mean? Like, it's very, very difficult to, not difficult, but it's very rare to see a game that isn't live service, and I do have two examples that I put, is Storm 4 and Fighters, okay? Those are two games that have great quality for the most part, right? I've heard mixed opinions about Storm 4 from people saying like, oh, there were people who said like, oh, it had issues and stuff, and I'm sure it did, right? Fighters, it had its issues, right? Not every game is perfect, but I'm saying for the most part, I feel like those had the most love put into them. And Kakarot is another example that I would also throw into this as well. The problem is, you know, when it comes to Storm 4 and Kakarot, they are more story focused, but Storm 4 at least had an online mode. Kakarot doesn't. So that hurts it long term. And that's why it doesn't, you know, after DLC drops, it doesn't have like a bunch of players anymore. You know what I mean? It's just the truth. But Kakarot did, you know, he still was very successful. Very, very good game. Has a lot of good quality and love put into it, right? But I'm just saying, like, you have to make a really, it's very rare. You got to have a damn good fucking game in order to play. Like, Fighters is the ideal anime fighting game. Storm 4 is probably the ideal, I would have to say, story and online combo, right? Because it does have PvP, right? And it has an amazing story mode, right? For the I don't want to say play that instead of watching the anime or reading the manga, obviously not. But you could watch this and get a great idea, and you know, about the anime, about the series, right? But yeah, those are just examples of games that are not live service that can do very well. But you see how little. How like there's just not many, right? Which is unfortunate. Most of the billions of anime games that have come out just don't meet this, right? So you would have to rely on a live service or gacha element for that to be successful. So here's Hunter x Hunter right now. It's got 94 players. Now, I'm recording this very early in the morning, so that makes sense. A lot of these numbers are going to be at their lowest, but that's why I wanted to do it, to just show you guys, like, just the minimum amount of players, okay? And it does have the peak that you can see. Had 181, which isn't very much more, and then the all-time peak was 277. Yikes. Now, here's Storm 4. Interesting enough, and this is just Steam. More people play on console, so this doesn't reflect it, but even on Steam, you'll see a general trend with the Steam player base for the all-time peak, right? This is not even when the game launched. When the game launched, I guess it had like 5,000, 6,000 players. It only got to 8,000 in May of 2024. I don't know if that was like a DLC release or there was like an update for the game or something. I can't remember what it was. That was last year. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was. You guys can let me know. But that just goes to show that the game can be even more successful than even the launch, okay? It is possible. It is definitely possible for an anime game to get back up there. So, Storm 4, I would say, very successful. The reviews show it, right? One Piece Pirate Warriors. Again, a lot of these are going to be low. I'm not going to go over every single, like, current player base right now. But the all-time peak was 9,000 players, okay? So again, similar trend on launch, okay? It's not until DLC drops, which I know that was when Gear 5 dropped, right? It got back up to like around 5K players, which is, you know, very good for an anime game. But yeah, again, we're seeing a trend here. 8,000 players, 9,000 players at launch. Demon Slayer, 8,000 players at launch, right? Look at that. Look at that. Sometimes it goes up via DLC releases, right? But it's not really that much. It doesn't ever get back up to like the actual, you know, initial player base, right? And keep in mind, a lot of these are they're all from different developers, but they're also from different publishers. I always see people say they blame Bandai, and I don't blame them for saying that, because Bandai does publish the majority of anime games, but Demon Slayer is by Sega, okay? Hunter x Hunter Net Impact was from Bushiroad and Arc System Works. Arc System Works did not develop this game. They were just the publisher. The developer was Bushiroad Games and 80, right? So, it's not just Bandai. It's just anime games in general are not doing too hot, all right, when it comes to a good, high-quality game. You know what I'm saying? So, it's not just Bandai, all right? So, don't just blame Bandai. Again, I know Bandai makes up a lot of them. But yeah, again, general trend, it's ranging around like 8,000 players for the most part. Here we have Jump Force, another game, which is hilarious. Who are the 17 people playing this game right now? Another game that was very successful, depending on how you view the game. Almost 10K players, 8,000 to 10K. Another game that was pretty successful at launch, right? I would say that 6,000 players is pretty good for an anime game, right? Bleach Rebirth of Souls, most recently, had around almost 7,000 players. They have a very, very similar, range of players at launch, and then you see they all have this similar type of drop-off with a little bit of increases via DLC drops, right? Storm 4 has been the exception because it was a good fucking game, right? And not just Storm 4, but just the Storm games in general. Storm 3, also, you can count that as well. Like here, let's just look up Storm 3. Let me see Storm 3. Yeah, see, like 5,000 players, okay? It's an even older game, right? These are just examples of these games that like they have a similar trend with the exception of, Storm 4, for example. But like, just look at this. Look at these numbers and how they go. This is good. You probably would want to view this over the actual player base and everything on Steam, because this is going to give you an idea of how all the consoles are being affected, right? Look at that. It's like all the same type of shit. Now here are the again, more exceptions to this situation, right? Xenoverse 2 had 20,000 players at launch. Again, this is just on Steam, okay? Similar, very similar, exact same thing. But with Xenoverse 2, it has a more consistent player base, okay? Which is a good player base, right? At launch, it had 20,000 people, gets a big drop off, and then it kind of just maintains around like 1,000 players. And still to this day, it's maintaining 1,000 players, right? Which is crazy because this game is almost 10 years old. Like, that's crazy. So this type of game seems to be working quite well. You know what I mean? And like, even with Storm 4, it's got more players than Xenoverse, right? So again, Storm 4 it's a good game. People are still wanting to jump on this game, and there's no updates being made on this game. So that's how you know they made a really good game. CC2 really did cook with this game, right? Moving on, we have Kakarot. Now, Kakarot has a lot of players right now just because it just got its DLC dropped, right? But generally, it doesn't really have as many, right? Again, it ranges around 1,000 players on Steam, right? But it had 25,000 people at launch, which is even better than Xenoverse 2 did. So these games, like Naruto Storm and Kakarot by CC2, are doing really well. But even with Demon Slayer, that's also by CyberConnect. And I think the story mode was pretty good. I think the actual online was, fine. It wasn't amazing or anything, but it was just fine to me. I didn't really play it that much, right? But it did have online. This game is very similar to Storm, okay? It is very similar to it. But even that wasn't enough. So it's like, it's very interesting. There's so many factors, if you really think about it. It's like, it has to be the specific IP, the series, right? It has to be the quality of the game. There's so many things that are making... That'll give you a good, successful game. You know what I'm saying? Moving on to Fighters. Fighters had, I would say, the second most amount of players when it comes to a Dragon Ball game. It had 44,000. But again, it suffered the same trends. Sparking Zero, one of the most successful games at launch, and also one of the most sad declines at launch. After launch, a month or two. How long was it? How long was it? I'm just curious. The drop off was 1 month, about a month after launch. It lost like 80 to 90% of its player base, which is actually fucking crazy, dude. That's crazy. It went back up a lot whenever the superhero DLC came out. But look at when Daima dropped. Daima DLC dropped. It doubled its initial, like its basic player base, but that's people do not fuck with Daima. At least the beginning points of Daima, right? Even with Kakarot's Daima DLC, when did that drop? Okay, it dropped. I guess the 24-hour peak is as close as we're gonna get. Even with the Kakarot Daima DLC, people did not fuck with that DLC. I'm gonna be real, because again, it's good quality. I loved it, but most people, they didn't care. A lot of people said, they told me, they were like, we're waiting for the part 2 in 2026 to be playing this shit. So I get it, but yeah, I could see it from views and everything on content. People were just not really fucking with it. I get it. I totally get it. I think it was great though. But yeah, Sparking Zero is the only anime game to get over 100,000 players at launch. That's crazy, dude. We're probably never going to see an anime game do these numbers at launch ever, unless it's Dragon Ball. Honestly, maybe if they made Naruto Storm 5 and it was like just Storm 4 but better, I think there is potential that it could probably maybe get up to that. Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, here's what I was talking about with a game that is very, very successful. And it's interesting. This is also by Biking, okay? Which people have their opinions on Biking, right? But it's because this is Fortnite. This is basically My Hero Academia Fortnite. Look at that. 1,522 players. I think that's got the most amount of players from any of the games that I've showed currently right now that are playing. Yeah, it definitely does. Look at this. These are ranging from like 100 to less than like 900 players for the most part, with the exception of Kakarot's getting there. Yeah, that's crazy. But the all-time peak for this game was 46,000. I remember when I saw this, I was like, this game is big. Like, I did not expect My Hero Academia. I know My Hero Academia is a huge series, but for an anime game to get 46,000 people at launch is crazy. But again, it still suffers that same trend as Sparking Zero, for example, where it has a huge drop-off, okay? They're all the same. Even Gekishin Squadra, it only had 12,000 players at launch, right? And the game's not out yet. This is just a beta, so we're not going to really count that, but I threw it in there. That was pretty good for just like a beta, right? But yeah, do you understand what I'm saying? The point I'm trying to get at, the reason I yapped for fucking 30 minutes, right? Is to show that just people, they just don't really fuck with anime games in general. And I don't think they ever really have. Like, again, these are games, if you're in the anime community, of course you fuck with them, right? But general public, people who like maybe have watched these anime and are very casual, I don't think they're picking these games up, right? Because if it was like a casual thing and like people were like, oh, I'm interested. Like, again, Sparking Zero was as close as you could get. I remember seeing content creators that don't even make anime game content that played this game and did videos on them, okay? People like, what, FaZe Jev or whatever. People like, what is it? Penguins Zero or Moist Critical, that guy. Like, those are people who like don't even make anime or Dragon Ball content like regularly at all. And they made videos at least on the game. You know what I'm saying? So like this is the first time that an anime game was getting there to like a mainstream, and then, you know, it just failed because of how the game was, right? And I want to say failed. Sparking Zero is not a failure. It is not. It is not. It is by far, I would have to say, top 5 most successful anime games of all time. Okay? But I'm just saying in general, I think if we're going to go to a solution, the closest thing I can give you guys for a game that's long-term, and even then it's not going to be as exciting as you want, is a good quality anime game with a good story and a decent fun online experience, okay? That's going to be probably Storm, right? Storm 4. Or a game that is similar to live service, but it has so much variety. This Xenoverse 2 is like, honestly, it's the perfect package, right? I am not glazing this game. I'm being dead ass. It really is the perfect package when it comes to a little bit of everything. It has a little bit of everything. Like I said, you got a little bit of story. You have customization. Make your own character. You have different game modes like, you know, raids and, you know, parallel quests. And they even threw in the fucking Hero Coliseum, which nobody plays, but it's an option, right? It's something different if you want to mix things up, right? You have so much to do in Xenoverse 2, right? And that's why it has stood the test of time and has outlived every single one of these anime games, right? But I will give credit where it's due. Storm 4 is very impressive to have this many players with no DLC or updates, right? I don't even remember the last time it did get an update. But 2016 was really a golden year because guess what? Both Xenoverse 2 and Storm, Bandai Namco was on their shit, bro. They were, I don't know if they just had money up their ass at that time, and they were like, whew, let's just make good games. What happened, Bandai? Bandai, what happened? You guys were cooking in 2016. 2016 was really the peak of anime gaming. We had Storm 4, we had, oh my bad, hit my mic. We had Xenoverse 2, and we had Dragon Ball Fusions. It's peak. It's peak. But yeah, y'all let me know down in the comments what you think can, I'm not saying is a solution, but can help anime games, okay? And as always, keep voicing your opinions. Put out, it is good. I want you to be critical about these games whenever they do shit. But it's just like right now, this current anime gaming space, it's just not it right now, right? Most recent games, if it's not Dragon Ball, for the most part, it's just not hitting with people. You know what I mean? And obviously, like I said, quality, that's a big thing. I think that should be number one, next to making a good, that's part of it. Making a good, high quality base game is very important. Having a good story, having good cutscenes, having good quality. When you show that you put love into your game, people fuck with it. You know what I mean? But when you show Hunter x Hunter Net Impact, and this game is just so fucking lazy, right? And not only lazy, but it's so low budget, right? This is what you're gonna get: 94 fucking players and a 60% review. I don't even know how I got that well of a review. But whatever. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.
This is Broly, and you are watching SLOplays. Make sure to subscribe, or else I'll destroy your entire planet.